Welcome to Southwest Florida Real Estate Update, hosted by area realtor Jim York and York Real Estate Group of Downing Fry Realty. Our show will bring you the most up-to-date information about the local real estate market, featuring leading experts in the real estate field.
Hi, I'm Michael York of the York Real Estate Group. Welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update. Today with our host Jim York and his guest Cindy Carroll of Carroll & Carroll Appraisers.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. Cindy, thank you for coming on the show again.
It's my pleasure.
Let's just give us a little background about yourself. As we all know, you're the guru of statistics in Naples here.
Oh, thanks, Jim, for that compliment. I am a real estate appraiser. I've been appraising in Collier County since 1986. That would be like 29 years now. Part of a family business that started really back in the late 70s, appraising real estate in Naples. Today my brother and I are partners. We have a full complement residential and commercial services in our appraisal firm.
And I'm sure banks use you quite a bit, don't they?
Yes, we do have lender clients, but our client base is broad, not solely bank work. That probably only makes up 20 to 30% of our practice. We do a lot of trust and estate work.
Right.
We do some litigation, both residential and commercial. And primarily, we're doing a lot of contract contingency appraisals, pre-listing appraisals, and such as that.
Okay, well, Cindy, we've been through some downturn in the past years. I had Dwight Brock on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about foreclosures. In the peak of the market, there was 8,000 foreclosures in Collier County, and last year there was just over 1,000. And this year he predicts there'll be under 600. We would just tell our audience how you feel about when you're doing appraisal, how that affects when you're doing appraisal based on foreclosure in a different community or area.
Well, it's interesting that the terms foreclosure and short sale have almost left our vocabulary.
Exactly.
Especially if you're talking about markets west of 41. And it's very unusual today to encounter a short sale or foreclosure transaction west of 41. So if you're making an appraisal in those market areas, it's just not even a concern anymore. As you move east, you still see some. If you're working in Golden Gate City, you'll still be turning some of those up. In some cases, in markets where the supply is very short, if a short sale or foreclosure property is in good condition, it's selling at or near market value. So we're not seeing a huge discount on those as we once did. And that doesn't include the properties that are in a distressed kind of a condition,
exactly.
You know. That's kind of a different market altogether. But we had a sub-market for a while that was short sale and foreclosure, and properties were being bought at auction, many of them, by investors who would put some effort into them, rehab, turn around and sell them. And that segment of the market's really phasing out.
And how long does it take you to do an appraisal from start to finish?
It depends on the assignment, of course.
Right.
You know, it depends on how complex the assignment is. But in many cases, from start to finish, it's within a week or less. In some cases, it can be more.
And how's your fees for an appraisal? How do you, what your fees would be to do an appraisal on certain houses?
Our fee structure, with single family or condominiums, the fee starts at $450. It can go up from that point just based on the complexity of the assignment.
Okay. Well, Cindy, we're going to take a little short break here, and we're going to be right back in 1 minute.
When picking a realtor, don't just pick anyone. Pick someone with experience. Pick someone with a proven track record. Pick a realtor like Jim York from Downing Fry Realty, the #1 brokerage with the most real estate transactions in the area.
My husband and I had very specific ideas about what we wanted in our new home. Jim York was able to help us find the home that was ideal for us.
With over 20 years of real estate experience in Southwest Florida, Jim York has negotiated over $200 million in sales contracts. Selecting the right realtor is a critical decision that can earn you thousands when selling or save you thousands when buying.
Jim also helped us with a mortgage lender and a good real estate attorney. He went that extra mile, and his experience says it all.
Call Jim York for a no-obligation meeting at 239-273-6727 or visit his website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Cindy, how do you do an appraisal in a new community? We see all this new construction going on in Naples based on when there's not a lot of rooftops in the community. How do you approach that?
Well, you learn everything you can about the community. And that's going to include how many properties that have already been sold and closed in that neighborhood, what they might have under contract at that time, and how many are left to build. And it's okay, in my opinion, to use a sale from within the community if you can get all of the details about it. What the contract price was, what kind of upgrades were involved, any kind of developer incentives that might have been given as credits. But then for sales that truly match the definition of market value, you often have to reach outside of that neighborhood to look for some resale activity of a very similar kind of product in that same neighborhood market area. And so you look for those comparables and make the proper adjustments for the different value influencing factors.
Okay. And maybe before we go into trends here, you kind of brought up a point here, is when you do an appraisal, you're based on market value, right?
As long as that's the client's instruction, yes.
Okay. And how do you establish market value? Because, you know, there are appraisals that come in higher, lower, or right at the contract price. How do you establish that, if you could just explain that?
It's the appraisal process of identifying the best, most comparable sales and then making the appropriate adjustments in the different value influencing categories. Market value is the highest price that the property would bring if it's offered on the open market for a reasonable length of time with a willing buyer and a willing seller. Nobody's acting under duress.
Okay.
And so that's why you're looking for sales that meet that kind of a definition from the market. One of the struggles that I think appraisers sometimes have, and not in determining market value, but in dealing with new construction, is that a developer may offer a base product, and then there can be many, many upgrades added on to that.
That's right.
The developer has a certain pricing structure that goes with those upgrades. But in the resale market, the buyers do not always return dollar for dollar for upgrades. So just to make up a number, if your base price of the house is $200,000, but by the time you get finished adding on the pool, extending the tile, crown moldings, upgrading appliances, et cetera, it could be that you've added another $100,000 to your purchase price.
Right.
But in the resale market, a buyer may not return you dollar for dollar for those upgrades.
What?
So there can be a difference between cost
Right.
and value.
And what do you put a premium on as on a resale on upgrades?
It just depends.
So,
There's no one number that I could give
like
you
a
for that.
Kitchen or
it depends on the neighborhood
pool or what?
and what a buyer expects in that neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. Cindy, now really what you came here for, we'll get into, is trends. So I think everybody's been reading in the paper, prices have gone up 25% in Naples. So I'd like you to explain to the viewers, okay, where is the 25%? Okay.
I read those stories also. And I am a member of Neighbors Media Relations Committee, and every month we review statistics that come right out of the MLS. They're an outstanding resource, but they're a starting spot. One of the biggest increases in median price that we see in the neighbor statistics right now is for an area that is loosely referred to as Naples Beach. Now, this would include the single-family homes in the zip codes that are 34102, 103, and 108. If you have any idea where those zip codes are, they are coastal, but they go from Port Royal all the way up to Naples Park, and they cross over 41 east to Goodlet Road, so it takes in a very broad area. Now, the neighbor statistics tell us that over the last 12 months, median price for single-family homes in that collective zip code area has gone up 31%. Now, that's an incredible number. But if an appraiser or any other real estate professional works in a single-family home neighborhood in one of those zip codes and applies that 2.5% per month as a market advancement rate, it's not going to be true in every case. Recently had an assignment in Naples Park, for instance, which falls within that zip code area. And I had some sales that were dated. They may have gone under contract 6 months prior to my effective date of my appraisal. So I knew that I needed to apply a market advancement rate to them. And I tried 2.5% per month, and it was very clear that that was way too much. I fell back to the statistics again and looked at the market statistics for single-family homes in the under $300,000 price range. Well, that's been about 1% per month. That was an appropriate rate to apply to properties in Naples Park. I think that this high 2.5% per month advancement rate that we've been seeing is primarily being driven by Old Naples.
That's right.
And I see the Old Naples market as one that may have hit the top of this economic cycle last fall, August or September of 14. I think we may have seen our shortest inventory in that market area for this economic cycle, because that market is trending toward a balance of supply and demand pretty quickly right now.
And your balance of supply is how many months?
I measure it as 1 year of inventory.
Right.
So if the number of current listings in the neighborhood is equal to the number of sales in the last 12 months, I see that as being a balanced market.
Okay. And in the Old Naples Park Shore moorings area that we're talking about, maybe in Port Royal, what do you see new construction versus resale? Because that, I know we've discussed this before, there's a lot of new construction on MLS.
That's right.
So do you have those statistics readily available?
I do, and that is an interesting market segment that I'm watching, because I think it is a barometer to the market trend. And I can tell you that just looking at Old Naples, which has about 11 months of inventory, now we're talking single-family homes,
Right.
that if I search the MLS for homes that were built in 2013 or after, right now I find 24 listings and 20 sales in the last 12 months. Now, I don't see that as being oversupply. I think that's a pretty balanced condition right now, but I think that is a barometer that we need to be watching. It's generally the same in the Moorings Park Shore area also. But one thing that's interesting is that the most oversupply in the Old Naples market, and remember I told you overall we've got 11 months.
That's
right. About a balanced market. But if I look into a price range, if I get into the 3 million to 4 million price range, that's where I'm seeing more than 1 year of inventory. And in the 3.5 to 4 million, there's almost 2 years of inventory right now. And some of that is the new construction. In the 3 to 4 million price range, there are 14 new construction homes on the market, 14 of the 24 in that whole neighborhood. The other thing that's shifting is that in the 1 million to $1.5 million price range, which really represents land value
That's
for Old
right.
Naples.
Right.
I'm also seeing that inventory come up now, that it's about a 1.4 years of inventory. I think what's happening is that the new construction is perhaps not moving as quickly as it did for a while. Builders, knowing this, are being cautious and not absorbing the vacant land market as they had been for a while,
Right.
because they've got to move their product before they take on a new project.
And they're probably seeing a little maybe price resistance also, don't you think?
That's what I think.
Right.
That's what I think. And I think it's happening in the Moorings Park Shore area also. And nothing to be alarmed about, certainly.
Right.
This is a natural, normal market function. And I think we may be headed for a balanced market there, where we're going to see that 31% increase in median price backing off substantially, just as a comparison.
Right.
So at the end of 2014, we saw this 31% increase. But at the end of December of 2013, that median price had gone up only 11%. So I think we're going to start backing off that number.
Interesting. And how do you, back when we had a lot of inventory down there, what was the most that you saw, and what are those figures? Do you have that?
I do.
Because it was 3-4 years?
It's interesting to, let's just take you back to February of 2005 for a moment.
Good.
Because that was the top of the prior economic cycle. It's interesting now that we're talking about the prior cycle.
That's right.
And at that point in time, Old Naples single-family homes had fallen to 5 months of supply. By December of 2008, you'll recall we had a stock market crash in the fall of 2008.
Right.
By December of 2008, there was over 3 years of inventory
Right.
in the Old Naples single-family home market. In August of 14, now 6-8 months ago, it had fallen back to 4.7 months of inventory. So compare that
Right.
with February of 2005.
Right.
It's practically the same number. But since August, this is what I'm watching closely, we've gone from 4.7 months
Right.
to 11 months.
Exactly.
So I think we definitely see a stabilizing trend going on there.
And so let's just move away from the downtown area and maybe go up a little bit north to the Pelican Bay area. And what are you seeing there?
All right, the Pelican Bay single-family home market, September of 14,
Right.
3 months of inventory. Today, 6.4 months of inventory. See the change taking place there.
right.
In the condominium market, though, just over 3 months of inventory. Now, this is interesting because if I look at the Old Naples condominium market or the Moorings and Park Shore condominium market, they're still showing a severe shortage of inventory. So I think that what may be happening is that the single-family home market is heading toward balance, but the condominium market is still going to play catch-up for a while. We haven't seen the same kind of really strong increases in value in the condominium market that we have in the single-family home market. Contrast that 31% increase in median price in Old Naples with about a 10% increase for the condominium market in those zip code areas.
Interesting. And down in South Naples, as we call it, on the trail down there.
It's what we used to call East Naples.
right.
Now we're calling it South Naples, yes.
So some people are still calling it East Naples. But what are you seeing down there? Because there is a tremendous amount of new construction down there. How is that affecting inventory and values and, you know, people that are trying to resell their home there?
There's so much going on the East Trail.
There is.
I've never, in my entire life here in Naples, I've never seen as much activity as I see now. There's a whole neighborhood hub taking shape at the 951-41 intersection.
Right.
It's incredible. It's enough that I think that there are buyers that might have gone down and bought on Marco that are not going all the way to the island anymore.
Right.
The existing home market, and I think of neighborhoods like Lakewood and Kings Lake and Old Laley, for instance, where you can still buy a home for under $300,000. Those markets have done very well and have been showing an increase of around 1% per month for quite some time. That's likely to continue for a while. The under $300,000 price range used to make up about 50% of all of our inventory. Now it's down to 30 or 35% because of this price bracket moving up.
Exactly.
So our markets that are under 300,000 are probably going to stay in a shortage of inventory for quite some time. And then we have all this new construction going on. Well priced along that East Naples corridor. But it's all about timing in the market. We see those new builds selling well. We know that we have more to come out of the ground. It depends how long this market trend is sustained, and it depends on price ranges of the product, of course.
You don't see an oversupply of new construction, do you?
I don't yet. And some of the economic forecasts have talked about us being behind in number of permits issued. It all depends on how the demand continues. And we know that buyers like to buy new.
That's right.
And the builders are constantly balancing themselves with the resale market in terms of pricing and supply to keep everything in a balanced fashion.
Well, Cindy, we're going to take a short break here, and we're going to be right back. Okay.
Selecting the right realtor is a critical decision that can earn you thousands when selling.
Jim sold our villa in just 2 days. We got the highest price in the community. He then helped us to negotiate and purchase our new home here in Tiburon. I'd recommend Jim. His expertise made all the difference.
Call Jim York for a no-obligation meeting at 239-273-6727 or visit his website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Cindy, we're going to go to Michael for a question now, okay?
Good.
Cindy, could you give us an overview of prices east of I-75?
That is a very good question, and I think that west of 41, east of 75, I'm sorry, I think I'm going to think about Golden Gate Estates, and often not talked about, but an absolutely huge neighborhood of acreage home sites. The market in eastern Golden Gate Estates lost significant value in the downturn. At one point in time, the vacant land out there was selling at 7 cents on the dollar as compared to its top of the market prices. So what's been happening since '09 is a major recovery of that underlying land value, and it's coming around quickly. That market area has been in a shortage of inventory for several years now. Short sales and foreclosures are still popping up, but for the most part, the market's returned back to a logical functioning market. There are still some very good buys. It's one of our largest vestiges of affordable housing in Collier County. And I'm also beginning to see some new construction taking place out there.
That's right.
That hadn't been happening for years. I'm beginning to hear that banks are willing to make construction loans again. That really fuels that market. So it's growing and expanding, and they're in the process right now of 6-laning Collier Boulevard through that area, and so there's a lot of changes taking place.
How are you seeing, and how do you see like the golf course communities like a Twin Eagles, and how are you seeing their pricing being as not that far out, but they are east of 75? How do you see their trends?
I probably can't answer that question because I haven't studied those trends carefully.
Okay.
I think it's interesting to see in our market that we have large gated communities now evolving that do not include golf courses,
Right.
as there seems to be a bit of a demographic shift away from them. And bundled golf still seems to be pretty popular. As I look into some of those communities, they're still running a shortage of inventory in many of those.
Well, Cindy, again, I'd like to thank you for coming. I know your expertise is just, it's unbelievable, all the knowledge that you have and how you've helped realtors, including myself, work with clients. So thank you for coming on the show, and I'd like to have you again back real soon.
Sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.